This is CBC Here and Now.
As you come in, we have two pictures of Prince Philip when he visited the club on a number of occasions.
I think we're all just so thinking of the Queen today, how difficult this must be for her.
He didn't suffer fools gladly, let me put it that way. He quite often stopped over very informally in Gander.
He was by the Queen's side for more than 7 decades, including royal visits to Newfoundland and Labrador, along with plenty of private trips. Tonight, people in this province are remembering Prince Philip. Good evening and welcome to Here and Now. I'm Peter Cowan. Carolyn is off tonight. Premier Andrew Furey ignored advice from Elections NL when he called a short election, and there's a new tourism ad facing criticism for its lack of diversity. Those stories are just ahead on the show, but we start tonight with reaction to the death of Prince Philip, the husband of Queen Elizabeth II. In a statement, Buckingham Palace says Philip passed away peacefully this morning at Windsor Castle. He has been Britain's longest-serving royal consort, being by the monarch's side through the Queen's 69-year reign. In his role, Philip had maintained a busy schedule of public appearances before he retired in 2017. Earlier this year, he spent a month in hospital over an undiagnosed infection and a heart problem. Prince Philip's passing is certainly being felt in this province. Over the years, the Queen's husband visited Newfoundland and Labrador 17 times. He's the namesake for a major highway through St. John's, and his legacy is deep when it comes to the Duke of Edinburgh Youth Awards program. Terry Roberts takes a look at how people were reacting today.
Please, meaning me, make sure.
It's hard to find another living soul in Canada who has interacted more with Prince Philip than John Perlin of St. John's.
More than I can count in one hand, or two hands.
Perlin is now 87, is a former Canadian secretary to the Queen, organized numerous royal visits to this province.
Oh, I think it's been a great privilege.
Dating back to 1974.
That was the first official visit that I did.
Perlin had a big hand in scenes like this, even convinced organizers to change the date of the regatta in '78 to accommodate the royal schedule, and has first-hand knowledge of Prince Philip's no-nonsense personality.
He didn't suffer fools gladly, let me put it that way. Very much, I think, a naval officer in that respect.
So as tributes poured in today following news of Prince Philip's death, Perlin had this to say.
I really do think that his greatest success was in being the consort, in the sense of that he always had to take second place, but he was there at the Queen's side through thick and thin, and I think certainly he should be remembered for his loyalty to her and to the Crown.
As for Prince Philip's greatest legacy, Perlin says it's the Duke of Edinburgh Youth Awards program, founded 65 years ago, now expanded to 130 countries. John Perlin was the founding president of the program in Newfoundland and Labrador, and as the national president, traveled across Canada with Prince Philip, handing out awards.
It meant a lot to the kids to get their gold certificate from Prince Philip.
What better legacy can you have than to have had an impact on the development of young people, millions of young people all around the world? He truly believed in the potential of every young person.
Nearly 500 young people earn awards each year in this province.
Per capita, we are amongst the highest in terms of participation rates, and we also are amongst the highest in awards achieved in Canada.
He was in great spirits, a real gentleman, a fine man.
His death was also felt here today at the Crow's Nest in downtown St. John's. This club was established during the Second World War as a haven for officers. It was an obvious destination for Prince Philip, who had a long naval career. He first visited in 1951 and again in 1997.
As you come in, we have two pictures of Prince Philip when he visited the club.
Gary Walsh remembers that last visit like it was yesterday.
He went around the room and spoke to everybody that day, and it was very memorable, and we were so delighted he was able to come and reminisce about his his membership here, and that it was great. We got lots of photographs, and we say once again we're thankful he was here.
Though he made his fair share of gaffes and was known to be rough around the edges.
Probably hearing him dressing down his valet in the Hotel Gander.
The Queen once described Prince Philip as her strength and stay. He would have turned 100 in June. Terry Roberts, CBC News, St. John's.
Well, the loss of Prince Philip is being felt across the province tonight, especially for one royal watcher and collector in Corner Brook. Crystal Rose is inspired by the royal family and shared her thoughts on Prince Philip's passing with Here Now's Colleen Cotters.
I think he was such a popular royal for so many reasons. I think people really looked up to him. Obviously, his longevity was quite remarkable. Not just to live to be 99, he was so healthy, worked right up until he was 96. I mean, who wouldn't love to not retire until you're 96 and to be in such great health? I think he was just such an inspiration that he was able to be such a support to the Queen for so long. They had the longest royal marriage in recorded history, and I think people really saw how special their relationship was and what an amazing support he was to the Queen and to his wife, and that's something people really admired about him. At 99, most people don't know a world without Prince Philip in it. And when we think of the Queen, we think of Prince Philip. They were such an iconic couple. And you know, the Queen is 94, and now she's on her own, and she doesn't have that tremendous support that she did from her husband. I think we're all just so thinking of the Queen today, how difficult this must be for her, and how sad it must be for her. And really, I think there's a lot of worry and concern about how she will do and how her health will be without her husband by her side. I think, you know, like we say, it's unprecedented times right now. So I think we're all wondering, how do you honor a man like this in a way that he deserves when we do have so much, you know, public health restrictions. And obviously you can't have a giant state funeral with hundreds of people in the streets. And I have heard, I'm sure as you have, that he didn't really want that. He was a private person. So I'm really curious to see how they will honor him. What will the funeral look like? Will it be televised like Diana's was? I don't know. We may not get to see that. I know everyone's going to want to honor him in their own way. So trying to have that balance of safety, respecting his wishes, but also all the people who want to pay their respects is going to be quite complicated. And of course, we're all wondering who's going to be in attendance at this funeral, and will Harry and Meghan attend? And we know that the boys were very close to their grandfather. William and Harry were very close to Prince Philip, and so will they make the trip for the funeral? Who knows?
A letter shows the Premier didn't follow Elections NL's advice when he called the election in January.
The democratic process was actually hindered.
Coming up on Here and Now.
In a normal year, a day like today most certainly would have seen the Royal St. John's Regatta delayed. But this morning, the organizing committee announced a plan to try to get boats back on the water.
Practice is phase 1, racing is phase 2, and a regatta with vendors and games a chance will be phase 3.
I'm Jeremy Eaton. I'll have that story coming up on Here and Now.
A whole lot of the same for eastern areas of the island today. We saw some more periods of rain move in thanks to that area of low pressure to the south. But that ridge bringing in some of that drier air, which means things were pretty nice on the west coast of the island today. But we've been talking a lot about the fog and wanted to look into just how long the longest stretch of fog was, and it was actually 103 hours where visibility was less than a kilometer for St. John's between February 26th and March 3rd, 1998. Now, how long has hours been? Well, as of 3:30 p.m. today, we had 69 consecutive hours of fog, but in the last 117, we've had 115 hours of visibility less than a kilometer. So certainly has been foggy for eastern areas of the island. Not so much, like I said, on the west coast. In fact, breaking a number of records between 15 and 16 degrees for the southwest. Those numbers are going to change as we head through the weekend. Some snow on the way. I'll have those details coming up.
letter obtained by CBC News shows Premier Andrew Furey ignored advice from the Chief Electoral Officer when he called a short election in January. Today, Furey is defending his decision. Here now's Mark Quinn reports.
For months, Premier Andrew Furey's been consistent when asked why he called a winter election during a pandemic. Furey says he consulted with the province's Chief Electoral Officer, Bruce Chalk, and Chalk told him that Elections NL was ready.
I talked to Mr. Chalk. Mr. Chalk said he was ready for a COVID-19 election. He told me that in the fall of the year. He told me that in January. I was told he was ready for a COVID-19 election.
But a letter from Chalk to the Premier shows there's more to this story. 9 days before the election was called, Chalk warned Furey to avoid a short election campaign. Chalk instead suggested a 35-day election period, citing fears about mail-in special ballots. I have concerns that a significant number of ballots may not be returned in time to be counted, wrote Chalk. As evidence of what could go wrong, Chalk pointed to the recent by-election won by Furey. During the by-election in Humber-Gross Mourne, approximately 9% of mailed-out special ballot kits were not returned in time, wrote Chalk. Despite this, Furey chose to hold a 28-day election, the shortest period allowed under the Elections Act. Furey wasn't available for an interview today, but in a statement he defended his decision. He said he had to consider the toll a longer campaign would take on candidates. An election requires many sacrifices of those running in it, so there's a number of considerations involved, said Furey. The opposition party says Furey's decision was selfish.
What it shows is he picked and chose what was to his advantage versus to the advantage of the people of Newfoundland and Labrador. And that's not, in the best interest of what we do in this province. It's not in the best interest of democracy, and it's not fair to the voters.
When the House of Assembly reopens later this month, Andrew Furey may face lingering questions about this election. Already, the NDP's court challenge of the results in St. John's East Kitty-Vitty means one cabinet minister won't be sworn in as an MHA on Monday. Mark Quinn, CBC News, St. John's.
CBC has learned that yesterday's positive COVID case, a woman in her 40s, is an Eastern Health employee. Contact tracing is underway. Fewer than 10 people have been flagged as close contacts who are either staff or patients. Public Health says they're all being tested and have to isolate for 2 weeks. It says there's no known connection between this employee and the emergency room patient who tested positive last week. Well, there are 3 new cases of COVID-19 to report today, bringing the total number of active cases in Newfoundland and Labrador to 8. One of today's cases is a man in the Eastern Health region in his 20s or 30s. The case is tied to travel within Canada. Public Health is asking anyone who flew into St. John's on Air Canada Flight 8996 from Halifax on Tuesday to get tested out of an abundance of caution. A man in his 40s has tested positive for COVID-19. He's in the Western Health region. The source of that case is under investigation. There's also another case in Western, a man in his 50s who also tested positive, and it's also under investigation. And a new milestone in vaccinations. More than 100,000 doses have now been administered, so 17.6% of the population has at least 1 dose. A new tourism ad promoting St. John's is getting a failing grade for its lack of diversity. Destination St. John's produced a video as part of a new campaign to attract tourists through the Atlantic bubble. But as Cease Hare reports, critics say the exclusion of people of color is not just disappointing, it doesn't paint an accurate picture of St. John's.
The new video, polished and well-produced, that shows people having a good time outside in open spaces, is designed to attract visitors from the Maritimes once the Atlantic bubble opens on April 19th. But there's a glaring omission. There is zero representation of diverse people, and anti-racism advocates say courting visitors this way, in this day and age, isn't good enough.
We're concerned because the ads actually perpetuate racism and exclusion. And we want ads that promote the diversity and beauty of its place.
This is not just one instance, this is an ongoing disappointment. And that's why we want to find hope in ads that actually are meaningfully reflectful of the history and the place and peoples, and that so much of our culture of the peoples of this province are actually missed from this ad. There's so much more beauty that we could be adding that we're disappointed that is missing.
Destination St. John's admits concerns about this video are valid, but
I will say that when we were lining up the talent for this video, that we did actually have a number of people of diversity who we had included in the talent pool.
Duke says the problem started with weather delays in a week-long fall shoot. Time was of the essence. They needed leaves on the trees and green grass.
We needed to do it quickly, but we also were prevented to do some of the particular days because of weather. You know, you got to wait for a nice day. So it just turned out that a couple of the talent that we had lined up who did represent more of our diverse community actually weren't available to participate in that video.
Who are the folks that are doing this work, this production of these ads, and you know, how did they miss this? In 2021, I don't understand that, and I'm perhaps a little bit impatient now, more than I was probably a few years ago, but I don't understand this missing at this moment.
Duke is quick to point to a video that Destination St. John's released in July of 2020. The Come Stay With Us ad focuses on the city's hotel, meeting, and convention spaces. She says while they did succeed in portraying people of diversity in that ad, they didn't in this one. And that will change, and they will do better going forward. Cease here, CBC News, St. John's.
Well, the longest continuous running sporting event in North America is back. Sort of. The Royal St. John's Regatta Committee announced this morning that fixed rowing will be returning to Kitiviti Lake, the first step to getting the annual event back on track. But COVID could still throw things off track. Here now's Jeremy Eaton has that story.
I'm so pleased to say this after over a year of no activity. Boats will be going out in the pond for practice beginning Monday, May 3rd at 7:30 a.m.
On a rainy, gray day in St. John's, Royal St. John's Regatta Committee President Brad Power offered up a small slice of sunshine for fixed-seat rowers. COVID-19 shut down the sport last year, something the committee hasn't had to do since the Second World War.
It's a very big deal. It's something that we've been working on since last year. It's something that our rowing community has been yearning for quite some time. The last year was the first time in my lifetime that I didn't see a regatta take place.
It's going to look a lot different. The dock area will be fenced in, the boathouse off limits. Crews have to distance themselves from other rowers. In previous years, a practice spin would last about 45 minutes. This year, that's extended to an hour. Only 5 boats on the pond at a time, giving staff time to sanitize the other 5 shells. Masks will be required until the boats push off from the dock.
Crews and coxswains, coaches, will be required to perform a self-evaluation daily before coming to the boathouse.
It means a lot of change here. Protocols that come at a cost.
If we don't hold a garden party, our revenues will be significantly impacted. We also have cash wheels and whatnot that we operate that help fund our organization, and those wouldn't take place either. So we will announce details of our fees next week, but I think it's safe to say there will be an increase.
This is just step one. The rest depends on what happens with COVID-19.
Right now, with the way things are on the mainland and elsewhere, holding a 30 or 40,000 person event just doesn't make sense right now. It's not safe. There's too much risk. However, rowing, we've determined, can be done relatively safely.
Pushing back a regatta day race, a real possibility.
One question that I do anticipate that we'll get from the rowing community is whether we would be able to delay our regatta, and I will confirm that that is a possibility. And we would go likely no later than the end of October if we were to consider it.
Power admits that today's announcement might not be the one that people were hoping for, but he does say that this is a huge step forward. First to get boats on the water, then to try to get a race, and then maybe have a garden party down here later this year. Jeremy Eaton, CBC News, St. John's.
Another foggy night tonight along with some rain. Things are going to get colder as we head through the weekend, but maybe some sunshine on Sunday. I'll get into those details coming up.
Weather update is brought to you by the Healthcare Foundation Home Lottery. Bonus deadline is midnight tonight. Order tickets now at hcfhomelottery.ca.
Welcome back to Here Now, Ashley. I think everyone's been hoping for a break from the fog, at least for eastern Newfoundland. I'm not sure snow is really the break that people are looking for, though.
Nope. No, but it is a good break, I guess, if we're going to see a little difference in the fog.
You're a glass half full kind of person, aren't you?
Yes, I always am. As a meteorologist, I guess you kind of have to be. But yeah, we're going to see some snow. Temperatures are going to drop. Take a look at what we reached today, though, as daytime highs 4 degrees in St. John's. We have not seen that temperature move much over the last week, but those record-breaking temperatures in and around the south and the west today, certainly beautiful. There's where spring is. And then we've got temperatures into the single digits for most of Labrador, but that cooler air for the northern portion of Labrador is what's going to bring some of that potential, or at least that cooler air is going to sink south. Currently sitting at 3 degrees in St. John's, and we've dropped a few degrees on the west coast as well. 10 degrees in Stephenville, 1 in Happy Valley, Goose Bay, and Churchill Falls. You're currently sitting at -3. Taking a look at the current satellite and radar, you can see plenty of rainfall in the eastern areas of the island. That will generally continue as we head through the overnight tonight. We're seeing some pockets of heavy rain as well, heading towards the Burin Peninsula. And then we'll see that rain, like I said, continue for the most part. But note this snow. So we've got some light snow being reported for portions of the southeastern portions of Labrador right now. That potential is going to sink south towards the northern peninsula as well as the west coast, and then eventually towards central as we head into the overnight hours. You can see some of that colder air filter back in, and then for the most part we should stay as rain overnight tonight for the most of the Avalon. Environment Canada has issued a special weather statement from Green Bay, White Bay through to the metro area, or at least eastern areas of the Avalon, and that's because of the snow that we're going to see over the next 24 to 36 hours. So forecast tonight will drop those temperatures into the 0 to -2 degree range, so some drizzle or maybe even some freezing drizzle for portions of the Avalon. Otherwise, that rain potential changing over to snow. The winds will shift now to northerlies, 30 to 50 kilometers per hour for most of the island, and we'll see northwesterlies up across Labrador for the most part. -5 for Nain, -11 in Lab City, and -4 in Happy Valley, Goose Bay. So taking a look at the forecast for tomorrow, or at least the future tracker for tomorrow, we're going to see that cold air wrap around, and it's leading to the potential for some snow tomorrow afternoon. This pink line will likely be freezing rain. So we'll see that potential in the early afternoon for the northern portion of the Avalon, as well as the tip of the Bonavista Peninsula. And then that will retrograde, which means it'll move from east to west and bring that potential for snow a little bit further south into the afternoon tomorrow and evening hours. And behind that, we're going to see that change back over to rain, but for a few hours we'll more than likely see some freezing rain again along that pink line, and that's going to sink south as we head into the early morning hours on Sunday. The best potential for some freezing rain, like I mentioned, is going to be in that pink line, so anywhere from Bonavista North through to the northern portion of the Avalon, and maybe even portions of the northern peninsula. We'll see that as well. Temperatures on Saturday afternoon will be hovering in and around 1 to 2 degrees, a little bit warmer as you head a little bit further south, so Burgeo about 5 degrees. But those winds are going to be out of the northwest. We are going to see a shift in that, but again, some periods of snow possible. I'm not anticipating that this is going to accumulate to too much, more than likely less than 5 centimeters, because what does fall is going to be very wet through the afternoon tomorrow, and then again, that'll transition back to rain into the evening hours. Similar story as far as temperatures go for, or at least a little bit warmer for Labrador, and that's because you're going to see some of that warmer air move in. So the snow will change over to rain, and Lab City, you'll stay on that cold side at this point, or at least the snow side at this point. About 1 degree will be your afternoon high. So things are going to stay messy into Sunday, but there's a little bit of a break in the forecast, and I'll get into those details coming up.
I, Krista and Howell, do swear.
Just ahead, our political panel weighs in on Premier Andrew Furey's new cabinet and the upcoming NDP recount. Stay with us. Andrew Furey has unveiled his new, bigger cabinet. He's brought in former rival John Abbott to run children, seniors, and social development. There are also new faces like Pam Parsons, who's the minister responsible for women and gender equality. So what does this say about the new majority government and its priorities? Well, our political veterans are back. Sandy Collins is a former PC cabinet minister, Jerry Rogers, a former NDP leader, and Colin Holloway, a former Liberal MHA. Thanks, all three of you, for joining us again.
Thanks,
Thank
Peter.
you.
Okay, so I want to ask about some of these new faces that we're seeing right now. And Colin, let's start with you. What do you make of the people that he's added and left out of his new cabinet?
Well, you think about Pam Parsons. So this is Pam's third election. You look at her profile. She did some things within the party prior to 2015, being elected as an MHA. So Andrew Furey really had to do something for Pam Parsons, and his answer was to invite her into cabinet. I think it's a great role for Pam in terms of taking the women's portfolio. But he also had to do that in order to make room for some others, in my opinion. So John Hogan, we know John Hogan he's a lawyer, but he's also a good friend of Andrew Furey's. And of course, he did take out Tess Crosby in the election. So there had to be something for John in that process. Krista Howell. So she's a new face. People look at her profile. She was on the St. Anthony Town Council since 2015, I think, or 2016. So she's had 5 or 6 years. She is the first female mayor of St. Anthony. So that's a new role for her, being an MHA, but also being a minister of municipal affairs. So it's a steep learning curve for her as well. And I think you'd see that with some of these individuals. John Abbott, well, Furey had to bring John Abbott into this, and John comes from the bureaucracy. He's got a long history and a lot of experience, so I think John will do fine in that role.
Let's talk about the size of the cabinet. Sandy Collins, what do you make of the fact that cabinet's bigger, even as there are talks of making government smaller?
Yeah, well, going back to what Colin said, Premier Furey obviously had obligations, and those are based on a bunch of various items, whether it's favors owed or diversity or geography. A bunch of things go into a premier's decision on who he puts in his or her cabinet. The issue is now, of course, with Newfoundland being neck deep in debt, and we're probably on the doorstep of a budget that's going to be that's going to have some tough choices in there, and likely, and I would hope there's going to be some thought given to cost-saving measures and trying to get Newfoundland and Labrador back on the right track. So while we're trying to sell that, on the other hand, he adds 2 cabinet ministries, and with that, millions of dollars over the course of their existence. So I think it's. I don't know how that's going to set with the public. Whether or not it was necessary to have those 2 extra cabinet ministries, I guess, is up for discussion. However, the optics of it, the financial piece of it, it's certainly going to be a burden to taxpayers for sure.
Now, one of those positions that he was able to create in adding ministers was a standalone minister who's responsible for women and gender equality. We saw that before. Dwight Ball did that for the first time. So, Jerry Rogers, what do you make of the fact that we're going back to that? Is that going to actually lead to some of the changes that I know when you were an MHA for the NDP you were pushing for?
Absolutely, I think that it's imperative. There has been very little gender-based analysis on policies, on budgets at all, and it's so important. And this time during the pandemic has really shown us the fragility of women's economic situation in this province, and also the increase in gender-based violence against women. Let's not forget, Andrew Furey shut that down. He shut down that standalone office, and it's about time that it brought back. This is a mea culpa from him. Pam Parsons is a fighter. She does not back down, and I'm hoping that we'll see some really good work out of the standalone portfolio. The interesting thing, and it's something that you yourself have pointed out, Peter, is that the increase in the number of women in cabinet, that their portfolios have much smaller budgets. compared to the portfolios that are being held by men. And there's a number of reasons why some portfolios have more money than others, but I think it was a really good observation.
Let's talk a little bit about the election that is not over. And that's the fact that the NDP does have a recount and a court challenge. We're expecting that to be front and center next week. So, Jerry, let's start with you. What do you expect this might change?
Well, I think, it makes sense that that the NDP would call for a recount in St. John's East, Kitty-Vitty, absolutely. Because of the irregularities that we have seen. And I kept talking about this all throughout the election, hearing from people who couldn't get their ballot or got the wrong ballot, people who were just so frustrated. I think that has to be called for, that has to be a challenge. And if not the NDP, then who? And I think that the NDP has seen, they may get some pushback for doing this work, but I think it's absolutely crucial. Then the release of Bruce Chalk's letter to the Premier from January 6th, advising the Premier that they had to have at least 35 days, at least 5 weeks for the election. And the Premier ignored that. And he said that he had consulted with the Chief Electoral Officer, and he totally ignored that and did the shortest time possible. So this Premier, Andrew Furey, who's talking about collaboration all over the place, what in God's name is he doing? How can he be trusted?
Sandy, I want to ask you, this recount is obviously focusing on St. John's East, Kitty-Vitty. Do you think this is going to have a wider effect, or is this going to kind of be just contained to the examinations of the issues, the concerns, and also the consequences that might come in this one district?
Well, I think the consequences will be felt right across the province. However, this one was the closest. So, but back to what Jerry was talking about, up to this point, we've heard a lot of anecdotal stories about people not receiving this or receiving too many ballots or whatever the case. As we get this concrete evidence and information come in, like some of the stuff we've heard over the last few hours even, I think the onus is going to be on the Premier and Mr. Chalk to answer some questions. They haven't answered a whole lot up to this point, but as whistleblowers come forward, information comes forward, tangible evidence comes forward, we're going to have to deal with it. And that may put the whole legitimacy of the entire election in question, but that's yet to be seen.
Colin, I want to ask you, is the Premier going to have to wear a lot of this? Because his message throughout the whole campaign was, I don't run the election, not my responsibility.
Oh, I think it rests squarely with him. Bruce Chalk, yes, he answers to the House of Assembly, but there are close communications that go on between the Premier's office and the Chief Electoral Officer. So, the current Premier, Mr. Furey, is going to have to wear whatever happens here.
And let's not forget, he clearly stated, he said, it is my prerogative and my prerogative alone to call this election. Of course he has to wear it.
Well, thank you very much, all three of you, for your insights once again.
Thanks, Peter.
You're welcome. Thanks, Peter.
thoughts and prayers are sort of with the Queen at the moment, because she's relying on her family to support her during this sad time.
I think he would be remembered by probably his cheeky wit, and I think he's well known for things that he said, but also everything that he's done and supported the Queen. He's a war hero. I think that's probably the main thing that he'd be remembered for.
I think it's a huge loss, not only just because he's part of the royal family, but he's a husband, father, you know, he's been there for the Queen through her whole reign. And I think, yeah, the whole nation will be sad, especially at the moment, you know, with the pandemic.
Well, those are some people paying their respects outside Buckingham Palace today. Justin Trudeau is among the many world leaders paying tribute to Prince Philip. Today, he touched on the prince's work with young people.
Prince Philip was a man of service, motivated by a sense of duty to others. I know that through the Duke of Edinburgh's award, he helped empower millions of young people from all backgrounds, including here in Canada, to realize their greatest potential. And that's just one example of his many contributions. Prince Philip will be remembered as a champion for young people, a decorated naval officer, a dedicated philanthropist, and a constant in the life of Queen Elizabeth II.
Well, his life was remarkable, covering decades of history-making events. Renee Filippone has this look at Prince Philip's early years and how he developed his role in public life.
Who, with his hands between the hands of the Queen, becomes her liege man of life and limb.
For Britain's longest reigning monarch, he was the one constant witness.
And kisses her upon the left cheek.
Over more than 7 decades, Prince Philip kept watch as Elizabeth transformed from princess to queen, grew from young bride to great-grandmother, and the world's longest reigning living monarch. He is the longest surviving British royal consort. In some ways, he was born to play that role. The young Prince Philip was brought up in a royal household, born on a Greek island and in line to the Greek throne. But when the monarchy was overthrown, his family left, and after his parents separated, he was virtually on his own.
So all of that, I think, made him a very independent person and a man who had to very much live on his wits.
He met the future queen while serving in the Navy, and then by 1947, the prince had successfully wooed the princess and the nation. With the coronation, he gave up his Navy career and devoted his life to supporting the British monarch. His most important solo accomplishment, establishing the Duke of Edinburgh Award for Youth, first in the UK and in Canada. As a husband, Prince Philip was perhaps the only royal who could say anything to the Queen. He was often unpredictable in public, making widely reported sexist and racist remarks.
I can't suddenly change my whole way of doing things. I can't change my interests. I can't change the way in which I react to things. It's part of somebody's style.
In his early 90s, the prince started to battle the effects of old age. He was in and out of hospital. Concerns about his health were constant, but he kept bouncing back. Then, at the age of 96, after more than 22,000 solo engagements, he felt he had done his bit and retired from his royal career. Out of the spotlight, he was still there for his growing family, even stirring up concern with a car crash that saw him lose his license for good. For the Queen, his counsel and company were indispensable.
He has quite simply been my strength and stay all these years.
He was the oldest male British royal to ever live, and this monarchy's chief eyewitness after the Queen herself. Renee Filippone, CBC News, London.
He was, famous for his sense of humour. Some of it not completely well received, but from what I can tell, I think he was a very human. He was very sort of human, and I think he contributed a lot to the family.
I want to show my respect. Hey, so I come here. I take taxi immediately. Come here. I think the majority of people, including Italian as well, saw him as a grandfather. Like that's how I feel, at least. And I don't know, I felt like really sad when I heard the news, and I wanted to physically take part and play my tribute. I really liked him, so I think he was a really funny gentleman.
Let's take a look at who's celebrating this week. Thora and Leonard Stack are celebrating their 50th wedding anniversary. Happy 60th anniversary to Kevin and Janet Morris from St. David's. Happy 54th anniversary to Harry and Blanche Harris from Fortune. It's a 52nd anniversary for Headley and Evelyn Reed in Milton. Sterling and Lizzie Hopkins from Brownsdale, Trinity Bay are celebrating a very happy 66th anniversary. Happy 50th anniversary to Junior and Yvonne Lush of Gambo. Congratulations to Joseph and Florence Hopkins of Greens Harbor, who will celebrate their 68th anniversary this week. Congratulations. Bill and Barbara Barrett from Blakestown, our Trinity Bay, are celebrating their 50th anniversary. Happy 55th wedding anniversary to Richard and Emma Parsons, originally of Harry Bay, currently living in Sutton, Ontario. Happy 50th anniversary to Laura and Raymond Janes. Happy 63rd wedding anniversary to Wilson and Audrey Stoyles of Goobies. Happy 51st anniversary to Winston and Evelyn Hudson. It's a 50th wedding anniversary for Linda and Sterling Pritchett of Gambo. Happy 50th anniversary to John and Nellie Parsons, formerly of Labrador City, now living in Glovertown. Happy 59th anniversary to Douglas and Phyllis Small, originally from Morton's Harbour, now living in Clarenville. Happy 59th anniversary to Florence and Cecil Gilbert of Bishop's Falls. Happy 52nd anniversary to Ray and Peggy Hepditch of Southeast Bight, Placentia Bay. Happy 63rd wedding anniversary to Gordon and Rebby Fifield from Dildo, Trinity Bay. Happy 50th anniversary to George and Linda McDonald of Foxtrap. Happy 52nd anniversary to Roy and Elizabeth Taylor of Harbour Breton. Best wishes to Ida and Wes Thompson of Botwood, who are celebrating their 60th anniversary. Happy 50th anniversary to Raymond and Linda Patzold of Mount Pearl. Happy 52nd anniversary to Hardy and Myrtle Penny from Seldom, Fogo Island. Happy anniversary to Gerald and Edna Hodder from Main Point, Gander Bay, who are celebrating their 66th anniversary. Happy 52nd anniversary to Rowena and Junior Jackson of Corner Brook. Arch and Helen Morgan of Carmenville are celebrating 61 years of marriage. Congratulations. Happy 68th anniversary to Sybil and Joe Blackmore of St. John's. Happy 50th anniversary to Roy and Sharon Pico of Maidstone, St. David's. 64th anniversary greetings extended to Leona and Freeman Rideout of Seal Cove, Fortune Bay. Happy anniversary to Roland and Priscilla Cooper, who are celebrating 51 years of marriage. And this is a big one. Happy 74th wedding anniversary to Rod and Fran Dion, who feel blessed that they're able to celebrate with their friends and family. Now let's take a look at some birthday greetings. Sending greetings out to Ron O'Brien of Lansaloo, who celebrates his 90th birthday. He's still active, getting out in his potato garden or berry picking, and as you can see from this photo, he enjoys going to the cabin on his four-wheeler or snowmobile. Happy 90th birthday greetings for Adelia Collins of Lethbridge. Happy 91st birthday to Roger Short of Deer Lake. Happy 93rd to Roy King in Grand Falls, Windsor. It's a 90th birthday for Christine Bakey. Congratulations. Happy 93rd birthday to this young lady in Port-aux-Basque. Birthday greetings going out to Carrie Elliott of Newtown, Bonavista Bay, who celebrated her 90th birthday. Happy 90th birthday to Hilda Lane, who's from Buckens. Happy 96th birthday to Mamie Hounsell from Deer Lake. Happy birthday, Candy Nan. Happy 90th birthday to Richard Daw. Flora Peckford is celebrating her 95th. Happy birthday to Bill Bartlett from Kirpon, who will be celebrating his 90th birthday. Audrey Boone is celebrating a big one. It's 101 years old. She's living in Conception Bay South. Congratulations.
Well, that snow that's on the menu for tomorrow will move south as we head through the morning hours on Sunday, and then most of the northwest or northeast and eastern areas of the island should actually be into that rain by the time Sunday morning rolls around, and then by Sunday evening, most of us should be into that rain. But note what happens there for the Avalon. Looks like we're going to see a little bit of clearing as we head towards the evening hours. Finally going to see some relief from that fog and maybe a few peaks of sun as we head into sunset, and hopefully that'll make its way towards the Bonavista Peninsula as well. But as we get into Monday, we get back into that easterly flow and back into that potential for rain, drizzle, and fog for most of us across the island. Up through Labrador, looking at generally cloudy skies with that potential for a few showers. You may see some breaks as you head in towards the evening hours on Monday, but it does look like we're going to stay unsettled for most of next week. Taking a look at the temperatures for Sunday, they're going to start to creep back up, and that's why we're going to see that transition back over to rain for the central areas as well as the south and west. And then up through Labrador, you're looking at temperatures above about 2 to 5 degrees above zero, and again with the showers or drizzle through the afternoon. As we head into Monday, again, things will start to get a little bit more rainy, and then that fog will redevelop again. So we're looking at 5 to 9 degrees across the island, and then anywhere from 2 to 5 degrees again for Labrador. So you're not going to see too much in the way of change for your forecast either. Over the next 5 days, after that sun potentially peeking out on Sunday, and then we get back into those gray skies, the fog and the 4 to 5 degree temperatures will continue for St. John's and eastern Newfoundland. That easterly flow will translate to the same thing for central Newfoundland. By Wednesday, we may see a few peaks of sun, 8 degrees, but our overnight lows are going to start dropping again back into the minus single digits by the time Tuesday and Wednesday rolls around. For western Newfoundland, Tuesday, Wednesday looks pretty nice. You're going to bump back up to those double-digit temperatures by then. And then for eastern Labrador, some sunshine for both Tuesday and Wednesday. It looks like at this point about 5 to 6 degrees as a ridge of high pressure looks like it might set up. And then same thing for western Labrador with your similar temperatures. Wanted to share this lovely shot. This was actually last Friday, Little Bay Islands, the resettled community. But yeah, Georgina Parsons shared that one with us. Thank you so much for sharing that. And if you have any, send them to nlphotos@cbc.ca.
Wow, that's a beautiful sky. I would be very happy to see the sky in any way, shape, or form right now, Ashley. Whether there's a nice sunset or it's just clear, anything that's not fog.
I get it. Get off the Avalon and it would have been okay today.
Sounds good. I may take your advice this weekend.
Yes, exactly.
And thanks so much for watching, everyone. We'll be back Monday with another edition of Here Now. Have a great weekend.
Good night.